Hey, welcome back to my channel. I promise I will never say that again. It sounds weird coming out of my mouth. So, as you can tell by the books in front of me, we're talking about Rings of Power. My thoughts, what I liked, which isn't much. Spoilers. And what I didn't like, which is a lot. Some of them cross over, and I'll explain that through the video. Let's get into it, shall we? Seeing as I didn't want to go on a tangent and ramble off about something that I didn't know or didn't understand, so I made myself a little list. Good, bad, and all that crap. Right. Let's get into it, shall we? Let's start off with the good. I loved the use of the map. I loved the idea that if there was a scene in Moria and then the next scene was in the Southlands, you would see it zoom out and go to the Southlands and zoom in, so you could help. So visually, it's easier to understand. We're in the Southlands. We're not in Moria anymore. For me as a viewer, that helped. I don't know about you guys. I thought it helped because it helped me understand what part of Middle Earth I'm in. Probably even helped all the fucking people who were very critical of this, like Ben Shapiro. Hi, Ben. I loved the sort of vagueness of the character of Halbrand / Sauron. Sorry if you haven't seen it by now. Spoilers. I loved how it's like you didn't necessarily know whether he was telling you a truth or telling you a lie. I like that sort of like you didn't know, and especially that scene where Galadriel's trapped on the raft with him, she kind of has to trust him because anybody in that position would be the same thing. I don't know this person. I've never met this person before. I have to kind of trust them. They're just there. I loved the idea of seeing a Region and seeing Celebrimbor brought to the screen, because the only way I knew of Celebrimbor was through the Shadow of Mordor games, where he's the wraith that follows you around. Essentially keeps your character alive. Spoilers again, if you haven't played that game. Little side note about that. I didn't necessarily like that it was an older actor who was playing Celebrimbor, and it's nothing against him as an actor. It's the idea that even in the books, the elves are sort of described to be very fair, very young and youthful looking, even though they are 8,000 or 9,000 or 10,000 years old. They are supposed to look very fair and young and youthful. Again, I'm not bashing the actor. I'm just bashing the fact that when you saw the actor who was playing Elrond or Gil-galad, you could kind of be like, oh yeah, like they do kind of look like elves. I can kind of see that, and I can kind of see how that guy would become Hugo Weaving in the Peter Jackson version, and whoever the actor was who played Gil-galad in the Peter Jackson version. He was only probably in a couple of scenes at the prologue anyway. I loved the fact that the orcs were scary, because in the Peter Jackson one, the orcs were just kind of used as like cannon fodder. They were just kind of used as like the people who would charge the door and get riddled with arrows and spears and all that crap. And then you would send like the Uruk-hai or the Uggle-kai or the trolls in after the orcs to actually go do the damage. Because in this you actually saw it where it's like when I forget the character's name, but his character is dating or wants to date Bronwyn, and he was the elf who was at that encampment, but when the elves left, he kind of stayed. I don't know. There's a scene where he's captured in kind of like a sort of POW style camp where it's like the orcs are essentially getting the elves to tunnel to Mount Doom to bring apparently water to Mount Doom, which I really don't see how that would work. It has something to do with the sword plot that Theo finds and stuff like that. Anyway, it was interesting to see that, like, again, a good example that I liked was, again, that elf saves Theo, and those two are running through the forest. Like, it's that sort of shot. The camera's here, and they're running towards the camera, and the orcs are coming behind them, and you see it, like, it's this like massive wide shot where it's like it's just orc in the background. These two kind of just running as fast as their legs will carry, and then just almost getting swarmed on all sides because they're in the cover of the trees. And then as soon as they get out to the grassland, the orcs kind of scurry back into the shadows. That was cool to see. I love the character of Adar, but he's also, like Halbrand, one of the things I didn't like about the show. I like the character. I liked how it's like when you first were introduced to him, you kind of got the idea maybe he could be Sauron, because the way that the orcs kind of cowered in fear around him, and they sort of treated him as like a god. So it's like that was kind of cool to see. Right. Now let's rip the Band-Aid off and talk about the bad shit that I didn't like about Rings of Power. Let's start. Jeff Bezos. If you're going to buy a property like Lord of the Rings, something that has books already made from it or for it, these essentially are your Bible. And especially these two books, Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales. This is the shit before this. The fact that Bezos, you couldn't get the shit that's in these books down, shame on you as a fucking CEO. You couldn't fucking do that. Fuck you, Jeff Bezos. You couldn't get this shit down from like Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales, where it tells you everything you need to know about the crap that comes before this. It's really unfaithful. I heard this. There was a rumor going around on the internet where whether it was Bezos himself or someone on the Amazon Prime team attempted to reach out to Peter Jackson to be like, can we use you as like an executive producer, what have you? And he was interested, and then they ghosted him. Nice move, dumbass. And I'm talking about Bezos, not Peter Jackson. The fact that Peter Jackson wanted to help, as I said, an executive producer or whatever, that's cool on him. Because obviously he's brought The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings to life, so he kind of has some experience here. And then, sorry, just kind of annoying that, as I said, these essentially are your Bibles. The Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales. All the shit that happens in the first two ages are in here. And that Bezos couldn't, get that and understand this is as much as it's about Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, it's more about this. Yes, you can reference back to this to show where things are connected, but this should not have been your main focus. It should have been more this. Anyway, it's just annoying that when you see big executives like Jeff Bezos buy a product like this, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, it doesn't matter, where there's a bunch of books, there's a bunch of backlore to this property, and they almost don't acknowledge that backlore. It makes me want to pull what's left of my hair out because it's so annoying. You could have easily done the first season of Rings of Power is just the first age of Middle-earth, how everything got started, who the Valar were, who Morgoth was, how Morgoth and Sauron got in contact. You could have done that, and it would have worked. because the fans would have edited up. Like, they would have gobbled that shit up because it's like, it looks like Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, but it's not. But it... Sorry. It's... I also really didn't like the fact, again, I don't know how true this was, that there was a sort of 2022 woke ideologies being pushed in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all this crap. Like, I get it. Nowadays, every company has to be inclusive. Every company has to have, hey, we have a wide variety of people working for us, and we love every single one of them. They're a valued member of our team. I get it. I fucking get it. What I don't like is that these books essentially were designed based on the hero's journey. The idea, you have been presented a task. Again, doesn't matter your ethnicity, doesn't matter your fucking sexuality. You have been presented a task. You must complete this task. And then that's the journey. You have to eventually go do that task. Like, this is why I quit acting. Bunch of fucking egos. I'm sorry, just getting a bit emotional here. Because as a teenager, these books, like The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, this was the shit that I gobbled up. And like, yeah, I got into it through the movies. But once I got into it, I was, I loved I bought every book. I borrowed The Hobbit from my school library. Eventually I had to return it, and I got my own copy. This one, as you can see, I got it at Christmas one year, but it's like, I got The Hobbit. And then I proceeded to buy the rest. Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King. In fact, you can't put 2022 woke ideologies into a story that was designed in essentially World War I, but it based on that old story of the hero's journey. Anyway, okay, I'm getting a bit heated. Let's move on to another bad thing. Get me more agitated. Great. I hated the idea that, like, Sauron's reveal. It's like, okay, fine, yes. It was cool at the same time. It was a cool reveal, yet it was a bad reveal in the sense, oh yeah, like you're not a man of the South. It's like, yeah, I'm actually the Dark Lord. Morgoth was my master. It's like, oh God, because in Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales, they describe that the way Sauron got to where he was, yes, he got the Númenóreans to attack him, and then he surrendered, became their prisoner, and worked his way up to the king's top henchman. I know I'm kind of butchering it, but it's like the fact that he manipulated his way to the top and eventually convinced the Númenóreans to go attack the Valar and take eternal life for themselves. Like, the way that it's like, fucking Halbrand goes to Númenor. I want to be a blacksmith. I don't want to go back and save Middle Earth. It's like, where's the Anatar? You guys remember what Anatar is? It's the disguise that Sauron took when he used to trick the elves into making the 9 rings of power for men and the 7 dwarf rings. Yes, he also did it with the 3 rings, but it's for the elves. But the elves, once they figured out, hey, it's Sauron, they took the ring off. Like, again, Bezos or whoever's in charge at Amazon Prime, I can't believe these were right here. The Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, Peoples of Middle Earth. I don't have those books. I don't have Peoples of Middle Earth, but the point being, They have books based on the shit in First Age and Second Ages. This is the Third Age. They have books, and this is what you could have done. We'll do a first season, which is the First Age of Middle Earth. Simple, easy, everybody gets it. Ugh. And Numenor. It was both good and bad. Good because it's like, wow, I got to see what Numenor looks like. Bad because it's like, Numenor was like essentially started by Elrond's brother. He became the first king of Numenor. And yet, you set it up where it's like, hey, we're way past that. He's dead by now. It's like, fuck. Like, I get a lot of things that they were trying to set up. It's just bad execution. Bad execution. And the thing is as well, all the episodes, they blur together. There's no episode that stands out enough to be like, this is the episode. Which ties into talking about battle scenes. I'll link Shadim Brooks' video he did on the battle scenes down below. He's more of an expert. He can go into more of the details of why the battles sucked. But I agree with a lot of the points he says in the video where it's like, for example, when Adar and the orcs go to the village and say, hey, we're going to, take over the village. If you guys don't want us taking it over, you have to join us and, swear allegiance to us, and we won't kill you. And all of them go up to that elf fortress. As, again, to summarize what Chad said, why on God's green earth would you leave? Like, okay, the people who decided to go swear allegiance is fine, which, there's a cool little scene from one of those people who joined J.R.R. that I like, but I'll come back to that in a minute, where the whole point is like, oh, well, they're going to come attack the base. It's like, yeah, they want the sword. But, of course, Adar doesn't know that the thing that the sword is supposed to be stuck into and activate the Mount Doom is in the tower. So it's like, if all he wanted was the sword, yeah, walk out to the gate, here's the sword, leave. He takes his army and he fucking leaves, not realizing, hey, the thing you need is in there because you never let him in. If you just gave him the sword, he would have fucked off. And then same thing, it's like, again, I'll link Chad's video down below. He goes into more detail on it, but it's so dumb. It's like, the people who decided to stay, you have a fucking castle on a hill. The only way that the enemy could attack you is that narrow bridge leading to the door. You don't need to shoot them with arrows. You could throw fucking rocks down, as Shad said. The point would have worked. You funneled them into a tight choke point so they can't get anywhere. Why do you think that in the real world, Edinburgh Castle in the medieval ages worked so well? It was on a fucking hill. The only way you could attack Edinburgh Castle is the main fucking gate. You couldn't get siege ladders up to the top because you had to climb the hill. And by the time you get to the hill, you're shot dead. And to tie it back into Lord of the Rings. Yes, even though Helm's Deep wasn't like the actual battle like ended up the way it did. If a group of horse were just attacking Helm's Deep essentially is in a canyon. The only way you can attack Helm's Deep is the main gate. Like Edinburgh Castle, there's only one entry point. So, but even in Helm's Deep, when they filmed it, was the reason it worked was because they knew where to cut Peter Jackson knew where to cut tension to. It's like, oh, we need to set up the big army, the underwhelming attack defenders against the overwhelming attackers. We need to set up the fact that the women and children are in the caves and they're like a stone's throw away from the deeping wall, or there are stones that are away from the keep, but it's that sort of idea. It's like, you need to set this up so it's like there's the emotion of like, oh fuck, if these guys lose, they die. Like it's like, it's the dumbest thing. It's like, yeah, let's go away from the defensive fortress on the hill, where even if they tried to attack us, there'd be no way in besides the main gate. Okay. And then, to finish it up, I really didn't like Gandalf's entrance. He was a fucking comet that landed where the hobbits were, the Harfoots. If you actually read the Silmarillion and actually read Unfinished Tales, him and Saruman and Radagast and the Blue Wizards came by boat to the Grey Havens. That's how they came to Middle Earth. They didn't come in as comets or fucking trees. They fucking came on a boat. Bezos, get that through your fucking cue ball head. And obviously I really didn't like that forced love story between the elf and Bromwyn. It's like, well, there was Baron and Luthien in Silmarillion, and Aragorn and Arwen in the Lord of the Rings, and Killian fucking Tariel in The Hobbit. We have to have our own. It's like, no! No, you don't! Yes, you could set it up where there is a relationship, like a friendship. That's fine. She's friends with him and he's friends with her. That's fine. You didn't need to set it up as a fucking love story. God. I'm gonna stop this video now before I pop a fucking blood vessel. I will link Shad's video in the description. Watch that. He will go into more detail of why the fight scenes sucked so much compared to Lord of the Rings, and heck, even the fucking Hobbit. The Hobbit had better battle scenes than Rings of Power. I agree with Ben Shapiro. 3 out of fucking 5. Actually, no. Mine, 2.5 out of 5. Like, it was good. It was, like, great. It's nice to see what it was like before. But, oh my God. You had the material in front of you, and you couldn't fucking do it. That's like the smartest kid in school saying, here, literally cheat off my math test, and the teacher's right there. It's like, it's right there. There's your fucking answers, and you couldn't fucking see it. Oh, fuck me. Oh my God, it sucks so much. Oh my God. As I said, I'm turning this video off before I pop a fucking blood vessel. Fuck with you later, YouTube.